And just like that, we are live on the internet. How are you doing, Rich?
I am spectacular. How are you, Eric?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for asking. Fantastically well. And I'm close to spectacular. Meeting fine in a minute. Um, I'm glad to hear you're spectacular. SPECHT tacular.
That's right.
Or acular, I guess. Yeah.
Way too much fun with my last name.
Yeah. Had you ever thought of that before?
I there were times where I would do that, but
Yep.
I never made it. Made a point of it. And then I read your latest blog post, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a point of saying I'm spectacular. So actually, when I picked up Melina from school yesterday, I said, Melina, how was your day? She's like, it was good. I'm like, no, sweetie. From now on, you need to say, if anyone asks you how you're doing, you got to say, I'm spectacular.
Right.
So, and she's like, okay. And I'm like, well, what's your last name? And she goes, Spect. And I'm like, so you're spectacular. And she's like, right. That's weird, Dad. And I'm like, yeah, it'll be fun. So, and of course, I asked her this morning, how you doing? She's like, I'm good. I'm like, no, you're spectacular.
Right.
I was like, you got to say although she wasn't spectacular because she jumped into our bed last night. And then about 4:00 in the morning, she hauled off and hit me in the face.
Why?
Nice.
And so there's nothing like being woken up out of a deep sleep by your 8-year-old clobbering you in the nose.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, like I said something. And then she's like, I'm sorry. I don't know why I did that. And then she was right back to sleep.
She must have been like having a weird dream.
Yeah. And I woke up this morning. I'm like, do you remember assaulting me in the middle of the night? And she's like, what does that mean? I was like, you hit me. She's like, oh yeah, I don't know why. And I'm like, that's great. I'm like, I thought you may have broken my nose. You hit me so hard. I saw stars. Like, I had like,
It actually, now you say it is a little red.
It is.
Yeah.
She hurt me. Well, she hauled off and assaulted me in the middle of the night. So, oh well. So, I guess when I asked her how she was doing this morning, spectacular was not the answer. Although apparently neither was I. So,
you're close to spectacular. Maybe you're fantastically well.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your domestic abuse.
That's okay.
Okay. What does Sam think about being spectacular?
I haven't really said anything to her about it, so she'll probably just roll her eyes at me because I do stuff like that all the time, and she just, whatever. It's just Rich being Rich.
Well, we'll send her the blog. Prime her up for it, and then be like, "So, Eric's fantastic, but we're spectacular." Spectacular might even be a better word. Like I think I could have gone with spectacular instead. I might adopt it. Maybe spectacular. I'll add it to the rotation because I do terrific sometimes. I've been on tremendous kick lately. I've been trying to use the word tremendous more because that's people don't use that one a lot. Just in general, like, oh, that's tremendous. I was saying awesome too much. I realized. So I was trying to work in some other words that are equivalent to awesome. So because how many things are really like, inspiring awe, right? Like that's
true.
I feel like it's used a little too much. So yeah, I was using tremendous more because that's not a word that's used very often. And terrific,
fabulous.
Fabulous has connotations that I don't always intend. Splendid is good. I like Splendid. One of my favorite board games is Splendor. Very, very excellent game. So yeah, I think Splendid's going too. But I think Spectacular needs to get worked into the mix more. That one really has that might be even better than Fantastic, honestly. Spectacular,
I kind of feel like I have a little ownership over it too.
Yeah.
Like my name is literally in it.
Right. Yeah. I don't wish. I wish that I had like
my last name provides itself for having lots of fun uses. So.
Right. Is there any cool word with ton at the end or ton in it anywhere? Because that's usually what I can use. Because my weight has a lot of weight behind it.
Yeah.
Ton. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, nothing. There's no good word. Yeah.
Your last name isn't as cool as mine.
What about Eric? There's no even Eric. Like terrific.
Terrific.
Terrific. Yeah, like nothing. So.
Even my first name, I always feel bad when people, hey, I'm Rich.
Yes, I am.
And right, not that I am rich because it's my name,
Right.
but not the other way around. So.
Oh, and and obviously, everybody knows that Sam's parents told her to marry a rich.
That's
And,
right. And
she did.
not my girls. They know. Very
Yeah.
wealthy.
Very wealthy, yeah.
Right, until my daughter comes home with, hey, I met this guy, James. James wealthy.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks for making the same mistake your mom made.
He works at the garden center at Home Depot. Yeah.
Although I love when my wife points out to my kids when we say this, she's like, yeah, I wish I had known that rule back then. I'm like, thanks. Wow. Thanks for letting me know you're really happy with your lot in life.
Yeah.
So
look at it.
It's marriage. What can you say? And Sam and I have been together for 30 years. So
that means that if you'd killed her, you'd be getting out of jail by now.
If I killed her?
Yeah, if you'd murdered her, but like it was like manslaughter, you'd be free right now. So there's a joke about that. It's this guy's 30th wedding anniversary. He's crying and it's like, why are you so sad? He's like, if I'd murdered you, I'd be getting out right now.
No, I've already gotten a life sentence.
Right. Oh yeah. Woo.
And Sam's home right now, so she may have heard that through the door, and so.
Well, she doesn't watch this podcast.
She doesn't, because she's normally working right now. But we have a meeting for Melina in about an hour, so so she's waiting for me to finish up here, and then we're gonna go over there. And but yeah, so if he hears me, I'll be in trouble. But that's standard operating procedure for me.
In trouble is always such a funny thing too, right? Like you're in trouble.
I'm always in trouble. It doesn't matter who.
Are wives ever in trouble?
No.
I realize I've never had a girlfriend who was ever in trouble, but I've been in trouble all the time.
There's a terrible inequity when it comes to that, but I'm not going to complain because honestly, there's no point. So.
Yeah. I thought because you had some like wise thing to say, like because what they do for us is so worth it, so it's okay. But you're like, but no,
I'm going to cut to the point, and there's no point. So
fair enough.
Just
it is weird that like only men can be in trouble, or only husbands can be in trouble, or boyfriends.
Right, like when you talk about the doghouse. Apparently, the doghouse only has males in
it. No, husbands are almost never upset at their wives.
Yeah, not in the way. Yeah, not in the way that women get mad at men.
Not for like petty BS.
No. But men are from Mars, right? And women are from Venus.
That's something like that.
Something like that, right? So
yeah,
and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna complain. I feel like I've got a good deal going, so I'm not gonna disturb the apple cart. Then I won't be able to say I'm doing spectacular. So,
but I'm a big fan of your wife. She's a lovely human.
My wife is the loveliest human as far as I'm concerned. So
she's wonderful. I'm a big fan of her.
She really is, and she puts up with me. So, and I'm not easy to live with. Trust me, I have to deal with it every day.
Right.
You're not easy to live with when you can't stand yourself sometimes. So
that's me all the time. So
I'm not there all the time, but often.
Yeah. No, sometimes I like myself quite a bit. So
I do marvel at the people who can stand to be with me. I'm like, wow, that's impressive, especially if it's voluntarily. Like, I never trusted if my students said that, like, well, you have to be with me. So, you're
right.
literally mandated to be with me. So that doesn't count. And my children have no choice. But my wife, God bless her, she has volunteered for this. And she continues.
I volunteer to spend time with you all the time.
That's true. So again, I'm always amazed at the people who volunteer to do this.
I even bought you
for the 3 people who watch this.
Right.
They volunteer.
Yep. I even flew you down once to spend time with me.
Yeah.
Twice, or maybe more than that. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always surprising.
I had a big announcement this week.
Yes, you did.
I'm very excited about it.
As you should be. I think it's exciting for not just you, but I think in general as to what
for the nation.
Yeah. I truly. I mean, when I spoke at your conference and I told your dealers that, and I truly believe this, that they they are the kind of the front line of defense against basically our story being other people's stories. I do think I think the dealers need to still see themselves more as that, as really drowning prevention advocates first and foremost.
I mean, I do. So I mean, that makes sense.
Well, I know you do. And I think your dealers need to embrace that even more. Like, I think if they did that, it just, I think anyone who's involved in any type of water safety, any of it, really needs to embrace that side of it more than we have been. Swim schools. This has been my complaint with swim schools. Like, I think they beat around the bush when it comes to water safety. Like, you know what? You should have ads out there. Like, your kid's likely to drown. Right?
I mean, we put out those educational videos and stuff,
Yeah. I think there needs to be a lot more of it, because that education piece is what's missing. So anything that's going to help you guys grow, which, when I spoke to you guys and I said that you stand out as to how you approach the drowning prevention sphere itself is unique, and it's the actual way to do it. And yes, it's beneficial to your business, but it's also beneficial to what we want to do. And that's isn't that like what it's supposed to be? Isn't that like when capitalism was working its best?
Right. That you can do good while doing well.
Right.
Yeah.
And so anything that's going to help you guys to do that makes me happy, and I'm happy to get word out there and get people to be excited about your big announcement, which I don't want to steal your big salad. So I'm going to let you say what the big announcement is.
Your big salad? I never heard that.
You've never heard that? That's a Seinfeld reference.
I know it's a Seinfeld reference, but I never heard it used that way.
Sorry.
That's okay. Well, the big announcement, I'll look at the camera. The big announcement is that, Lifesaver has fully realized a dream that was actually my dad's a long time ago, that we, level up the business from what we do now, which is we have dealers around the country, and they're unique dealers. They're not like, regular dealers where they just kind of like buy our stuff as a catalog of products that they sell. But most of our dealers are dedicated dealers who pretty much only, sell Lifesaver full fence, maybe with some other, side stuff. But we're upgrading from just a dealer network to we're now also offering a franchise channel on top of that. So going forward, we won't be setting up any new dealers. Existing dealers will get to stay, and some of them will be converting over to franchises. But yeah, going forward, we are selling and setting up, franchise units around the country, and yeah, and we couldn't be more excited about it. It's a neat thing, and it's going to allow us to help people who want to get into this business, who want to sell pool fence as their livelihood, to do it in a way where they can grow it as quickly and safely and efficiently as possible, using all the best practices that we've figured out over the last 35 years, and using all the mistakes that we've made so they don't have to. And yeah, we gotta get to guide them through this to do it in the optimal way. So yeah, we're super pumped. And, yeah.
So I'm going to ask you as a layman, because I mean, I understand how franchising works. Although if anyone wants to see how that whole process works, there's a great movie called The Founder.
Great movie. Yeah. I have. I love it.
About how McDonald's basically became what it was through franchising and that stuff. But what is the benefit versus being a dealer versus being a franchise?
So, well, now going forward, the only way you can, open up a Lifesaver pool fence business is to be a franchise. And, right. But what they're going to get, what the dealers never got, unfortunately, is that they get a full kind of complete business set up for them. Like, we've already done all the work. So they're going to show up with a full operations manual that's literally like a how to run your business guide that you can just literally follow step by step. We're going to have them set up with a software and a suite of apps that do their invoicing for them, their billing, their money collection, their scheduling, their dispatching, so it sends their texts out on, there's a calendar. It does, automated follow-ups. So when they, after they do a job or they get a lead, it automatically sends text messages to them, following up for them on their behalf. It lets the customer know when they're on the way with the text message. It's just complete, business management software that automates their life and makes things go really smoothly. None of the dealers use anything like that. That's a big deal. We set them up with bookkeeping services so that they don't have to worry about doing any of their accounting. That all gets managed for them automatically. We set them up with a payroll service so they don't have to worry about all the ins and outs and nuances of running payroll. That gets all happen. So we just take all of the kind of minutia and administrative headaches out of running the business, and we give them a roadmap to follow. So we really just set them up for success, using, like I said, all the stuff that we've learned over 35 years and all the mistakes we've made. They can just skip all that and they get to hit the ground running. We also set them up with advertising. So, we know exactly how to market Pool Fence in a local area with the highest rate of return, with the highest efficiency, using Google and Facebook and Instagram. And so we hooked them up right away with, some partners of ours that know exactly, specifically how to advertise Pool Fence. And they know exactly the right amount of money to spend to get the biggest return. And it comes to about 2 jobs a month is what they have to spend. So if they install 2 Pool Fences a month and put that money into advertising, they do really well. So yeah, that's what they get. And for what we don't consider to be a large amount of money, they get this really life-changing career in business that can, that's already been, the less organized version of that has already been making dealers enough that they've been flourishing and successfully supporting their families for the last 3 decades. And this is kind of the on steroids version of that. So
yep.
It's a cool thing. And I have a little video here that I thought we could share. I'm gonna present, if I can move my mouse around, which I can. And share screen. I'll do it this way. All right. And here we go. For the last 35 years, we've been manufacturing the best removable pool safety fencing and selling it to dealers throughout the country. But now, for the first time ever, we're going to be the first pool fence brand to offer franchises. We're going to legitimize the pool fence installation business and level it up in a way that's never been done before.
We started Lifesaver Palm Beach County in roughly 2013. This last year, I did $1.5 million. It's a lifesaver, and it's definitely changed my life.
It is a hidden treasure, to be honest with you.
A full turnkey business solution where you can make 6 figures installing 3 fences a week for a small investment that you can do for the rest of your working life. And then when you're done, sell it for a substantial profit. My dad was born in New York, but he lived all over the country. He became a salesperson for the only really big pool fence company that existed at the time. And in that company, started stiffing him on his commissions. So he started threatening him with hey, if you keep doing this, I'm gonna make it myself. And so he did. So we set up a little factory in our garage. And then he'd go out and try and sell pool fence. And if he sold one, he'd come back to the garage, he'd make it, go back out again and install it. And that was the deal for a while, until they could get a little warehouse and a bigger warehouse. He'd realized that working for other people wasn't his bag. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And they're tired of putting in, their blood, sweat, tears, and hours that they're never gonna get back making someone else money.
Eric has this ability to market on the internet. And that was one of the first things he started when he started working for Lifesaver. For his parents. He went out and got poolfence.com. He started writing the marketing copy for that website. Ever since then, ever since it launched, and to this day, it is the premier destination on the internet to learn everything you need to know about how to protect your kids from childhood accidents, especially drowning in a backyard swimming pool.
You're helping the community, saving children, you're adding value. Everybody knows you're the one that's out there making sure that these kids are going to be safe.
Last year, we spent over $1.5 million on national advertising. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, TikTok.
Okay, what's going to differentiate us? And we went with having the best product in the industry, flat out, unarguable.
If I'm going to go and try to sell you a franchisee, I want to be ready and to say to you, this is a benefit, not only to you, to your family, to our clients.
On an average job, profit, I usually make about $1,000 to $1,500. I'm on the phone for, sometimes an hour tops explaining things, and we can do 3 to 5 of those a day.
We've had our best year ever for every year for the last 10 years. And the last 3 years in particular, we've seen dramatic exponential growth. Anybody who gets in it now is getting in on it really kind of at the ground floor. You get a business, not a job. So you get the opportunity to enjoy the money that you make. It's important to us that the fence is pre-sold before the customer even calls the Lifesaver in their area. They've already been convinced through our videos, through our marketing, through our social media, that not only do they just want a pool fence, but they have to have a Lifesaver pool fence.
It's a niche industry that we have dominated, and there's not many other players that can even come close.
I want to make sure, and I think we want to make sure as a team, that somebody comes in and they're going to say, wow, they did a great job. And this is a great product. This is something great for us, for my family. And I think this is going to work.
Culture is not something you can just decide one day that you're going to make. It happens naturally or it doesn't. Family, again, I don't like throwing that word around loosely either, because it's kind of cliche. Any one of these guys would do anything they could to help out another guy or his family and be there for them.
And so at the end of the day, we are a family. I would consider that. This isn't a company I've worked for 10 years. It's a company of people that I am connected to as much as I am with my husband. That we are, I don't know, I'm going down a sappy road that I don't want to go down. I don't know.
I love it. I can't hear you.
All right, there we go.
You go.
Yeah, my mouse fell off the table, so I was having a hard time.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, it came out really good, and
I love it because it's genuine, and it tells your story, and it lets people know what you guys are all about. And I love Kate's thing at the end. How does she feel about that?
She likes it. I got her approval before we put it up, and she loves it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's genuine. So it's I feel, honestly, I feel like it encapsulates what you guys really are, and what I've said to people about what you guys are and what you do. So now hopefully you get people, and again, it's a win-win. Go out and get a franchise, and the more that are out there, the more these fences are being put around pools and other bodies of water too, by the way, not just pools, but ponds. And protecting kids and helping getting the word out too, because it all becomes part of the bigger picture. So I think it's awesome, and I hope it does everything you guys want it to.
And you're talking about how it kind of encapsulates who we are. Hopefully, because of the way it is, the kind of people that respond to it are people who are similar to us. So we get kind of not that I want clones of me everywhere, but people who kind of share the same ideologies, the same DNA. That would be nice. That those are the kinds of people we attract who want to represent Lifesaver and become Lifesavers.
Right. Well,
that's cool.
It's definitely I see only positives in it, and hope it does everything you guys want it to do.
So we are looking for franchises and or franchisees to open franchises.
So if someone wants to become a Lifesaver franchise, if they're
Right.
like, hey, I live in this area, I think this would be good. What do they do?
So there's only there's not a ton of areas that are open, but there are a number of them, and more than you might think. So we are. I've been getting this number wrong. I've been having trouble with the math. So I believe we are in whatever the opposite of 21 is. So 29 states. Yeah, I think we're in 29 states, which means there's 21 states we're not in. So that's a lot. That's a lot of areas, and then within those states, there's spots that we're missing too. So that almost half the country is open. So there's opportunity available, but that also means that half the country is not open. So there's that too. But yeah. So reach out to me if you're watching this. You can probably get me on social media. My name is Eric Lupton. So Facebook me. Go to our website, email me. There will eventually be a lifesaverfranchising.com that's almost done, that we're launching any second now. So if you watch this in the future, go to lifesaverfranchising.com, and that's how you do it. But for right now, yeah, just email me or send me a message on Facebook or call the Lifesaver office, and say, scream into the phone, I want a franchise, and someone will help you. But yeah, that's the way you do it, and hopefully we find people who really want to make a difference and save lives and support their families doing it, because I can't think of a more honorable way to earn a living, frankly. So
yeah, and I think that's a great way to kind of wrap this up, is that when I spoke to your dealers, I said that what you guys are doing first and foremost is literally in the name of the company. Lifesaver, you're saving lives, and that's how much more noble can it be. When I speak to kids about water safety, because they know most of the schools I'll go to, they've already known me as the kindest guy, and I tell them, I say, the kindest thing you can do is save a life. That's the kindest act there is. So
you could say you could if you wanted to, maybe we could do some kind of a brand deal where we pay you to save this way from now on. Is the kindest thing you can be is a lifesaver.
Yeah, the kindest thing you can be is a lifesaver. I don't disagree with that. Yeah. Because literally, think about it. If we think about what kindness is, right, and it's doing something for someone else, and it's doing it to lift them up, or to what would be a grander act of kindness than saving that person's life, which is everything. So. Right. If someone can come up with an order of magnitude when it comes to kindness, if you can find me the thing that would place higher than saving someone's life as an act of kindness, I'm all ears. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I know I do say that all acts of kindness count, but if I had to place a value on a single act of kindness, I don't think I could place one higher than saving someone's life.
Maybe saving lots of people's lives. I don't know.
But it's still a lot. A life, lots of lives. It's life. Your company isn't a lifesaver. It's Lifesaver General, right?
Right.
So, and you actually do save lives, unlike the candy Lifesavers, which doesn't actually save lives.
Well, wasn't that the name? Because it has a hole in it, so if you choke on it, you can still breathe. Isn't that the whole point?
I don't think so. I think they're called Lifesavers because they look like ring buoys, which people call.
No. They were invented because people were choking on candies, so they made them. They have the hole in the middle so that you can still breathe. True? Yeah, that's true. So you can breathe through the candy while you're choking. Yeah, it's a lifesaver. That's the idea.
Interesting.
Yeah, they were designed to be less choke.
Or the cynic in me can't help but think they were designed that way because you can sell less mass in the same volume of packaging.
But
I'm sorry, am I the worst cynic ever? I mean, I see it more as money saver than lifesaver. Why do they call themselves money saver? Because it's like, here we go. We're going to give you half the candy and make you feel good about it.
Well,
half your candy is missing, but it's because we want to save your life, which I would love to see the efficacy of that hole as far as preventing choking. Because when I think about what actually causes choking, I'm not sure that hole is enough. It's sufficient to keep you from actually blocking the airway, even with that little hole there.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably not.
So call me skeptical, but
that just may have been like an urban legend I heard. That's why, you know.
See, and I always took it, and isn't that funny? Because I always took it, and although I have nothing to back it up other than my own theory. Or I should correct that, my own hypothesis. It's not really a theory. You know the difference between a hypothesis and a theory?
Tell me.
Well, people use the word theory wrong all the time, and I have to correct myself from doing it as well. A theory is something that has been tested and vetted a lot, and there's no other explanation that fits whatever that question happens to be, right? So something that's a theory, we use the word theory very flippantly, like, oh, it's just a theory. No, something that's a theory is pretty hardcore, and pretty much the only explanation that we have that makes sense for something that we don't have a definitive law of, right?
Which is why we call the best opening moves in a chess game chess theory.
Right. Until someone comes up with something better, that theory is the best thing that we have.
Right.
So when someone says a theory, oh, I have a theory, you really don't. You have a hypothesis, which is an educated guess. So I didn't have a theory about lifesavers. I had an educated guess, right? So my hypothesis was that they were called lifesavers because they literally look like ring buoys, which are colloquially called lifesavers. Like people call them a lifesaver.
Well,
show me the lifesaver. So, in fact, when I speak to kids and I show them a ring buoy, you know what they all call it universally? A lifesaver.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, oh, you mean the candy? And they're like, no. And I was like, well, this is actually called a ring buoy. So, but
yeah. So, you know, I looked it up and someone asked, you know, is the hole in Lifesavers candy intended to prevent choking? The answer is no. There is a false story that Crane, the founder of Lifesavers, put a hole in Lifesavers to prevent choking, but his daughter had choked on candy. What seems to be the true story is that he wanted the candy to look different from other mints that were popular at the time. In truth, Lifesavers came into being in the most mundane of fashions. There was no dead daughter of tragic death from choking, and thus no invention spurred by the desire to spare other parents the unknowable grief of losing a child to a preventable tragedy. That's interesting. Lifesavers were invented in 1912 by Clarence Crane, who had been making and selling chocolate candy in the Cleveland area since 1891, and thought to augment his product with a line of non-melting candy during the summer when chocolate sales were slow. Crane envisioned a round, flat peppermint in preference to the pillow-shaped ones then being imported from Europe, and he hired a pharmaceutical pill maker to press his new mints into a circle and punch a hole in them. It was their shape that inspired the name. They looked like Lifesavers, so Lifesavers they became. You are correct.
Look at that. My hypothesis has gone from theory to fact. So I went from hypothesis to fact to law. So there we go. Look at that. And that is another scientific precept. It's Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the right one.
So someone goes on to tell a story about how they knew someone who was choking on a ring, like a ring you wear on your finger, and they were choking on it, and they did the Heimlich and to save the person. But you know, the ring has a giant hole in it. Obviously, it is a ring is all, and they were still able to choke on the ring. So
right, and so that was, and so I'm thinking physiologically, right? So you have the trachea, which is an opening, right, like this.
Right.
But you lodge that candy in, what it's going to do is cause that flexible pipe to now conform to the sides and create a seal. So yes, if the candy were to lodge perfectly, lined up with the circumference of the pipe, then yes, you would have an air hole. But the likelihood of that happening is actually pretty small. In fact, in terms of physics, in terms of coefficients of friction and all that stuff, it's more likely to lodge sideways than it is to lodge perfectly that way. So yeah, still a choking hazard. So that was my scientific brain going, yeah, that's not gonna. So that's how I think. But,
well, there you go. You are right again, as usual.
Well,
Respect,
I mean, don't say that. Shh. I'm
We need
wrong a lot. I'm wrong a lot. In fact, you know ways I've been wrong? There's been ways I've been wrong in things I've done to my kids, thinking I was being a great parent and realizing that I was screwing them up.
Really?
Yeah. And, you know, we often talk about the things we're supposed to do to do right by our kids. But I think a lot of times we don't look at the stuff that we do as parents that mess them up. And go ahead.
You know you call that thing that you ride on that's got two wheels that the mall cops use?
The Segway?
That's exactly what you just did. Good job. That was a great segue.
Yes, I did a segue. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah.
Well, I'm inspired by you because you usually, you know, do these segues so well. So.
Well, that was beautiful. Yeah.
But my daughter Abby, who's about to turn 18, she was having a discussion with her boyfriend about things that their parents, you know, so hers and his, have done to screw them up, and things that they believed to be true because their parents never let them in on the fact that no, this was BS. Okay.
Bad science.
So bad science, right? So my daughter's favorite one for me, by the way, is that I still do this because of Melina. My daughters literally thought I had the ability to change streetlights to light colors from red to green. So, and I would do it, and every time I'd say, turn now, it would turn. And he'd be like, well, he's got magic. And of course, anytime they would ask me to do it, if it wasn't within the parameters of how I know the light was going to change, I would just stall. And it'd be like, you know, then I'd be like, okay, you know what? I'll change it now. Let light turn green now, right? So, and of course, the whole secret to my magic was actually looking at the light going the other way and just waiting for it to turn red. And then once it turned red, I would say turn green, and then magically it turned green exactly as I timed it. So they literally went through elementary school believing that I had the magic, even middle school, that I had the ability somehow. So once it wasn't magic anymore, there was some other way I was doing it, other than not recognizing that all I was doing is looking at the other side's light and just looking, you know, because you just have to see the little reflection of the colors, and you can tell that it's changed red on that side. And you can go, turn green now. And they totally believed that I did that, so that I had magic, and they believed in magic way too long into their lives. Another thing that I did to them that apparently screwed them up is I would try to bribe them. And when I didn't have anything to bribe once, I told my daughters I would give them an invisible pony. And they believed it. And they were doing all this work. And I said, well, here's your invisible pony. And they're like, well, where is it? I'm like, he's invisible. And they're like, but how do we know where he is? I'm like, I don't know. You got to catch him. He's invisible. And they ran around the house trying to catch this invisible pony. And it took a good couple of days before they realized there was no invisible pony. Yeah. Another thing I told them I could magically levitate things. So one night I went into their bedroom and I tied to their fan using monofilament string, really thin monofilament wire. I tied a mug. I told them it was my magic mug. And so they wake up in the middle of the night and they see this mug levitating in the middle of their room, and it was out of their, they couldn't reach it. Right. And I told them that that was my, and I never told, the problem was I never told them that I like the fact that this was all BS. So I think my daughter's I know Melina still believes that my thumb is detachable.
Nice.
So like, I'll show my thumb and like
do the trick.
I can pull it off, and I do the like, oh my God. So yeah. Or that I can make things disappear. So this is another one. So, you do the old, you show something, you're like, hold on, I gotta get in front of the camera. Like, I'm going to make this disappear. So I'm going to blow. Oh, it's gone. And then, of course, I had transferred it to the other hand, but they didn't see, the whole sleight of hand. So my kids thought I was magic and thought magic was a real thing way too late in life. And so, that was one little thing I did to screw it up. But I was like, okay, now that's kind of mundane. Like, but what are things like we can really do? So I actually looked up a list.
So I have one like that, but it wasn't my parent. It was my second grade teacher.
Okay, go ahead. What is it?
And it's because she made a joke, but I didn't realize it was a joke. So we were going over the planets of the solar system, and she said, that there's a 10th planet, and it's called Persephone. And there was a girl named Stephanie in the class, and she was joking with her that this 10th planet was called Persephone, right? but somehow either I wasn't paying attention or I just missed it. So all I heard was there's a 10th planet. It's been recently discovered. It's called Persephone. So I was like, oh, this is new science. It's exciting. So I come home, I tell my parents. My parents start repeating this to people. They're like out in public talking about this new planet Persephone. This went on for a long time. Like years, where my parents were like in the world talking about this new planet. People were like, really? I never heard about this. Like, oh yeah, it's exciting. And yeah, eventually it realized there was no planet Persephone, and then I replayed like the event, and I'm like, oh, I bet, oh, it was a joke, and I didn't get it, and because I'm probably slightly autistic, and yeah, so, yeah, Persephone was a thing for a long time. And nice. I was adamant, like, yeah, she said it. Why would she? Not gonna lie to us, you know? She's an educator, you know. When she, yeah. So yeah, the teacher made me believe in a planet that didn't exist, and she didn't intend to, but her humor was lost on me, and hopefully only me. Hopefully it wasn't a class full of people who all thought Persephone was a planet.
See, but that's how urban legends and myths start.
Right.
That's literally how they start. So, meanwhile, there's probably like a whole subculture of people who are now not only believe in this 10th planet, but have a whole religion set up around it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Unbeknownst to you.
Yeah, the cult of Persephone.
Misunderstanding and what you did, those butterfly flapping its wings 30 years ago has now become a hurricane. Yeah. And that hurricane is a whole cult of people who believe in the missing 12th planet Persephone.
Persephone, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No. So there you go. See. So I found a list because I was like, I was thinking to myself after I had this conversation with Abby, I'm like, what are things like real psychological things that we could do to really screw up our kids that are things that are common? I'm like, there's got to be a list somewhere. And I found one. There was actually an article in The Atlantic from 12 years ago now by Alice G. Walton. And it was fascinating to me because I'm like, holy crap, I've done a lot of these as a parent. And I'm like, wow, cool. Good to know how I've messed up my kids.
We'll see if Mike's also done any of them.
Yeah. So number one, and this is the number one. This is the one that they like. So I think it goes in order of like how egregious it actually is as a parent.
Santa Claus better be on the list because I don't like Santa Claus. I decided.
Santa's not on the list because Santa's real. Come on, Santa's real. All right, he's real. He's totally real. Totally. Except Rudolph's a fraud, right? Because the red nose. That's BS. But yeah. Right. So number one, threatening to leave your kids behind when they're acting up. Like, I'm going to leave you on the side of the road. If you keep, my God, my dad did that to me and I've done it to my kids. And it turns out that one thing you have to understand about child psychology is that children don't understand like sarcasm. They don't understand, like they see the world literally. And so when you threaten to say you're going to leave them behind, like they believe it and it can really mess with them. So it can have like long-lasting psychological.
Well, I thought that was the point, is that they believe you, so because you're trying to change their behavior.
Yeah, but exactly, you're trying to change their behavior with something that's going to scar them psychologically for the rest of their lives. So
have you ever done that, Mike?
Threatened to leave them somewhere?
Like I'm just going to leave you at this Publix or whatever.
No. But I have threatened to send my daughter to grandma's house for like the rest of the day or whatever.
But that's plausible. You can do that.
Yeah, that's like a real thing. So
or tell her we're going to drop her off there instead of going somewhere she wants to go.
So another one that this is number 2 on the list, and of course I just gave you all the examples of me doing this, is lying to your child and then like not fessing up to it. So right. Like blatant lies, like so I guess Santa would fall into this.
Like right? Santa, right? I think Santa, the Tooth Fairy. Stop lying to your kids. Like. What? Don't do this.
They really like
now they do point out in they do point out in the article that the lies in this case are more like malicious lies and stuff. So not I think you have to have a way of grading lies. So like there are certain little white lies that I think are relatively harmless. And yeah, I mean there's this like mass lie that we all tell our kids about a fictional guy who comes into their chimney and and all the Jewish, and I grew up in a very Jewish area where all the Jewish kids are like your parents are lying to you, and so which
by the way, for our viewers, that was a Long Island voice, not a Jewish voice that he did there. That was a stereotypical Long Island voice.
Oh yes, I'm from Long Island, so there you go.
Right.
Although my Long Island accent doesn't typically come out. There's only a few words where it really pops out.
Is it like coffee?
Coffee. Oh yeah.
Coffee. Yeah.
I get my coffee while I go to the mall.
Yeah. Is Idea Long Island?
What was that?
Idea, like instead of idea.
I've heard people say idea, but no, it's. I don't think that's a specifically Long Island thing.
My dad grew up in New York, but I don't. But he said idea all the time. I don't know where he picked it up.
My dad said that too.
Okay. Well,
The other thing that my dad said, but I think it was a generational thing. My dad said comfortable. Are you comfortable?
Comfortable? That sounds very New York.
Are you comfortable? No, but I am comfortable.
Yeah, no, I think that's a Long Island thing.
Water. It's water.
Water.
I drink water.
Right.
Water. And actually, that's when I have a heart. Like it's water. Like
There's a great TikTok series of a dad correcting his son's girlfriend, and she's like 18, and he's like some Long Island New Yorker, and she's like, yeah, I got a glass of water. He's like, no, it's water.
What?
You gotta say it right, water. And yeah, it's great. They're great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so number 3 is ignoring your own bad behavior. So the whole do as I say, not as I do. Apparently, yeah, that's a no-no. Which that one I get. Like, all right, I guess I'm supposed to model what I do for my kids, but and we don't always. And I think something that's important with something like this is that you have lists like this and you have things that you know you're not supposed to do. And I think a lot of times parents think like if I do it once, I'm the terrible parent. No, I think the whole point of something like this is that if it becomes a norm versus something that you slip up on. I mean, we're only human. No one is expecting you to be perfect. So that's certainly not what I'm going for here. And I honestly, I can look at everything on this list and oh, yep, I've done that. Oh, yep, I've done that. Must be the worst parent ever. Yet I'm going to brag. I got a phone call now we're having the meeting with my daughter's teachers this morning, but there was always a pre-meeting. So, and each of the people who were involved in the meeting talked to the parents. So I spoke to the school psychologist who told me that Melina is the sweetest, most compassionate little girl she's ever met in all her years of teaching. She's never met a sweeter, kinder girl. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm like, I must be doing something right. I mean, we got to be doing something right. I
don't think parenting matters, so maybe not.
What was that?
I have a theory that parenting doesn't matter. That your kids are kind of who they are, and you can only affect them so much.
Well, I mean, that gets into the nature versus nurture debate.
Right. I think the nature thing is much bigger than people give it credit for.
I agree. I think our genes, our nature is a big part of it. But
I've seen people with terrible parents and the kids come out like amazing. And I've seen people with amazing parents and one of the kids turns out good and the other one turns out to be a screw up and everywhere in between. So, I think it kind of is what it is.
The danger, the danger there is that I think people want to give a one size fits all answer to this problem, and there isn't. There is an interaction between nature and nurture, and is there a percentage allocation between one or the other? Yes, but I don't think it's universal. So, because we know the role. First of all, and I will disagree with you big time on one of these. Kindness and empathy are learned; they're not built in. And every psychological study ever has confirmed this. Kindness and empathy are 100% learned. That we are born inherently selfish, and that goes to reason. I mean, a child is nothing. A baby is nothing but selfish. It doesn't know altruism. It doesn't know to give. And studies have shown that kids who've been denied empathy and denied kindness are in turn themselves the same way. So kindness and empathy are completely learned. So again, I'm not going to pat myself on the back because my daughter now was called the kindest kid that they've met. But I feel like, okay, we must be doing something right with my kids. I mean, I do run a foundation that's all about kindness. So maybe that's not a coincidence. And I do try to practice what I preach. So I don't know, maybe. I mean, her two older sisters got the Triple C award when they graduated from that school, which was literally stands for the Compassion, Kindness, and I don't know if kindness does not start with a C, Community Award. And it's given to one kid every year. And her two older sisters each got that award. Now, again, Could there be like, well, the family, I don't know. I have to have some skepticism, but
well, maybe the kind of person who has the DNA that starts a kindness charity has children who are also inherently kind.
Again, is that there has to be, I wouldn't discount that there is some type of genetic predisposition towards some of this stuff. So, but it would also discount the effect of parenting completely if we said that it's all one or the other. So it can't be so binary that it's like, cut and dry. And yeah, I think the real mystery is that we don't know. So
well, I think it should reassure parents that since it doesn't matter, you can pretty much do anything and it's going to be okay. Or not.
By the way, and this goes to what you were saying about parents who, have one good kid and then one kid who's like a freaking mass murderer.
Yeah.
That's a mistake. And this is actually number 4 on the list, that assuming what worked for your first kid will work for the second or third or other kids. And they're not, they're different humans, and they really are. That is something that my wife and I look at each other and are amazed at all the time. Like how the heck can 2 people who, I know who I am, my wife knows who she is. How do 2 people make these little tiny human beings, and these little human beings are so different? And have different, but again, they also have these similarities, right? Like, I've commented about this before. Melina doesn't have the baggage that Abby and Lori have when it comes to Reese. Yet some of the things that I thought were totally because of Reese with Lori and Abby, I'm like, well, I'm seeing that in Melina, can't be, right? So it's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. Number 5 is overreacting when your child breaks a rule. So in other words, coming down too hard, it's finding that middle ground. And I've certainly done this when they've broken certain rules. And I don't know why I get mad at one rule versus another, but, that's apparently one of the things we do that screws our kids up. Thinking that your baby shouldn't be babied. I guess this goes against Ferberizing your kid. This one I kind of agree with. Not that I don't disagree with any of the others, but this one I definitely ascribe to this one, was that babies need you, and if they're crying, there's a reason, and you're not going to spoil them. Not a baby. When kids get spoiled, it's when they're like toddlers and they're a little bit older. That's when I think you can really start spoiling them, because they start to have context to what they're doing. But a baby doesn't. So, you know what? Spoil your babies.
They learn manipulation.
Right. Once they learn that connection, the cause and effect, the causality, that's when you got to worry. Punish or scold your child when they act out, hits or throws things. In other words, if they're getting overly emotional, there's a reason for it, and I think it's more of understanding where that emotion's coming from rather than just getting upset at it. And this is one, and I talk to my daughters about this all the time. Being your child's friend rather than their parent. My daughters have friends who their parents are their friends, and there's a universal truth with those kids.
Yeah,
and they're the kids I don't want my daughters hanging out with. So it's just, it doesn't work. You can't be your kid's friend. You can't be your kid's friend.
What is the universal through line that you see in those? Like, is there a specific like mentality or like
yeah, they have no sense. They have literally no sense of people outside themselves. They see the world totally singularly through themselves, and like it's this like like they have no outward worldview, and they basically like free reign to do whatever the hell they want. So there's like no limits. It's like universal. So drives me crazy. Drives me absolutely crazy. Skipping family meals. And this one I know studies have shown that the family dinner is one of the most important times of the day. And the family dinner has been something that has decreased in each successive generation as we've gone along. So
we never did it. I never had a family dinner.
Yeah, and you turned out fine. Look at that. So and again, that's why rules like this, you got to take it with some reason and sensibility. Like, just because there's a rule doesn't mean it's universal to everybody.
Right.
But these are all things you may want to think about of implementing. I mean, I make a point of trying to have a family meal at least a couple times a week. We don't do it every night. Some nights it's just I'll make something. We sit down on the couch and we all watch TV and eat together. But my family, I will say this, our family always eats together. We never eat separately. So whether we're sitting at the kitchen table and having a family sit down meal, or we're all together. So, and studies show that that's really important. And then the last rule here was driving everywhere. And this is such an American thing where like parents drive their kids to the bus stop. Like walk them.
Why? What is it? The exercise? Like what's the
yeah? It's that little bit of exercise that you're taking out, and it compounds. So, and they'll look for other ways to just basically be as lazy as they can possibly be. So, and you're setting the tone by doing that. So, like I will not, unless it's pouring rain and the weather is terrible, and I know that little shell that I can sit in helps. I will not drive my kids to the bus stop. Sorry. And it's a little bit of a hike to get to the bus, but so what? And then I think this is the most important one. Think that you bear sole responsibility or no responsibility for your child's development. So I think this speaks to exactly what we said. It's a good one to wrap up on, that it's a little bit of both. And you got to have some reasonable expectations of what you're doing for your kids and how you're doing it. And I think if you go into parenting with that as your primary goal, and that's the best place to start. So it's being reasonable. And I think too many parents get caught up in this unreasonable stuff and like these fads. Like I love all these parents who are now upset at Marie Kondo, right? For saying for backtracking on her whole thing, where she really didn't. She didn't backtrack.
Mike and I had a whole conversation about this.
She came to a realization as a parent of what it takes to be an effective parent, and that focusing solely on making sure everything's neat and tidy isn't that important in the grand scheme of things. I kind of applaud her for doing that, as opposed to the other parents like, oh my God, you ruined my life. No, they didn't ruin your life. She didn't tell you had to do this. You're the one who felt some pressure to be the perfect parent, and that doesn't exist. So cut yourself some slack. That is the best advice I could ever give to new parents. Cut yourself slack as a parent, because you're not going to be perfect, and the expectation of perfection is going to lead to misery. So don't do it. Just don't do it.
You know, I think as a person who's never been a parent that I know of, or I'm not a parent, because even if I might be a dad, I'm not a parent for sure. As a person who's never been a parent, but I've had parents. I had two of them.
Right.
And I know a lot of people have had a lot of more than that, but I've only had two. And I've seen other parents, a few times. And so in my very uneducated opinion, I think the most important part to parenting is kind of like the most important part of anything, which is showing up.
Yeah.
Just being around, and near the children, for, important times and, even not important times, just being around and available and having your antennas up and being present, I think goes a long way, so I know my parents, and maybe, this was a fault of them and that it worked out for me, but my parents didn't have friends. They didn't go out. Like they didn't do anything. They were just always home with us. Like they didn't do anything else. And, maybe that was a little too extreme.
I don't know, but I think that's important. Be there for your kids, and when you can go the extra mile, do it.
I knew what TV shows we were watching from 8 to 10 every night, because they weren't doing anything else. I knew, when I was, home, that my mom would be around if I needed something. Right.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you. I think you nailed it. Without being a parent, Eric, you nailed it.
And I see a lot of parents who aren't now. They go on vacations without their kids, or for long periods of time. Often, you can do it every now and again. That's fine.
Right.
Or I see parents who go out like several nights a week, and go out, to restaurants or bars or whatever, and leave their
abdication of parenting.
And I'm like, don't you have kids at home? Like, what are you? How are you out all the time?
Right.
How come you're out more than I am, and I don't have any kids? Like,
you got it. Be present.
Yeah.
And like I said, and though I think it's also important, like not just be present, but when you have that opportunity to go the extra mile, not all the time, because then you spoil them, but do it. Like, Sam got mad at me yesterday because I had the car, because I've been letting Abby take the car because we haven't gotten her a car yet. We're looking at things to be able to do that. And So I had the car, and a lot of times when I have the car and Abby's at school, she'll be like, "Can you drop off bagels for me?" And my answer is always no. But every once in a while, I will. And so yesterday I did. I dropped them off egg sandwiches, or the day before. And Samantha's like, "I can't believe you did that." And I'm like, you know what? It's that one time that I did it is going to mean so much more to them than it had I did it every day, right? So, but I'm going to say this: the kids who their parents are their friends, those are the kids who get their lunch dropped off every single day.
Right.
Like, no, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. But you know what? I am going to do it every once in a while, and you're going to love it when I do. And it'll be even more special when I do, and appreciate those moments, because it's moments that make life, not every day. It's, so, yeah. So there you go. There's how to be the perfect parent. It's by accepting you're not perfect.
Good job, Rich.
So
we are perfectly imperfect.
yes. And being okay with that. So, and that's the kindest thing you can do for yourself.
It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay to not be okay.
I'm sure there's some other one-liners that I can throw in here somewhere.
So,
do you want
to go the extra mile?
Do you want to science fact us?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so go the miles. Well, okay. Oh, here's one. If you took every blood vessel in your body and strung them end to end, so it's every capillary, every vein, and you just made a long line, it would stretch roughly about from here to halfway to the moon. So it's about 180,000 miles.
That's a lot.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Talk about going the extra mile. Your blood does it every day.
Look at that. It's very cool.
So, yes.
Speaking of facts and trivia, will you be joining us for Jeopardy?
I don't know. I don't know how long this meeting is going to be, so which I have to get to. I'm sure Samantha's standing outside my door right now and be like, "When's he coming out?" So,
Well, if it's 4 hours long, I'm sorry for you, but you never know.
it shouldn't be, but I will let you know if I'm back on time.
All right.
Although my wife may want to go to lunch with me, so since she's now home for the rest of the day.
Lame.
Yeah, weird. Like spend time together.
Right. Well, if at 3 o'clock you're available, or shortly thereafter, let us know. And so if we win today, because now it's a competition, right?
Right.
If we win today, we'll have matched our record, of the most wins in a row. And if we win tomorrow, we will break our record of most consecutive victories versus our opponents in a row.
Well, then I feel like since I haven't done it since you've had this competitive version of it. I mean, I don't want to mess with your. I mean, I've tainted your sample.
Nope, it won't be a
all right. If you don't see it that way, then if I'm around, I'm going to join you guys today.
We'll take all the help we can get.
All right, fine. If I'm around, I'll join you guys today.
All right, man. Well, enjoy your meeting. Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate you.
Yes.
And we will see you next Thursday.
No.
Oh, no, you
I'll
won't.
not be around next Thursday. I have shows all week next week. Valentine's Day, Valentine's week, like kindness, they kind of go together. So it's usually my busiest week of the year. So
we will not see you next Thursday.
But the following Thursday. And I'll be in Florida.
Yeah, we'll be in Florida. Well, all right. Where you'll be down at the coast?
I'll be on the West Coast. I'll be in Tampa.
All right. Well, it'll be fun.
But I will be closer to you than I normally am.
Oh, well, that's lovely.
So, all right.
All right.
So see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2
from
weeks.
sunny Florida.
And may the force be with you.
And also with you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.